Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Think on These Things podcast right here on the Biblos Network. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Evan Grizzle. This is my wife, Ashley.
Hello.
So glad that you're here. We're looking forward to a great time discussing a great topic. Before we do, we want to say thank you to everyone over at the Biblos Network, Spencer Jordan, Dr. Pastor Jesse Galindo, and Pastor Nathaniel Urshan for all they're doing. We are greatly appreciative of the Biblos Network, and we believe in what it is doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen the last episode they released on the Abrahamic blessing, it's amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Be sure to check it out.
Yep. So we're recording this on Friday to be aired on Monday.
Yes.
Today is the 14th. So it just came out last night. It is incredible. So go watch it. Before we dive in, I also want to tell you about questions and answers. When questions are coming in, we're still working out answers for those to be able to answer those on our podcast. And so if what we'll try to work out is where if you text in a question, we'll let you know what episode it's going to be airing on so you can check it out.
Yes.
And if you have any questions, text the word THINK, THINK, to the number 910-600-0498. That is the word THINK to 910-600-0498. So today we are going to talk about burnout.
Yes.
Burnout is a bad thing. It is not a pandemic or an epidemic, I would say, but it is something that ministry will face at some point, and anybody in life will face at some point in their life and in their ministry. And so why don't we start out with talking about what burnout is? What from a mental and emotional perspective, what is burnout?
Yeah. So in my mind, when you mentioned the term burnout, I was thinking about how burnout is the alarm. It has gone off for a very long time now, and it's time to listen.
Yeah.
Burnout means you need an intervention.
Okay.
And it's time to make some changes.
Okay.
And so when I think of burnout, I think, okay, this is an indication for me that I need to maybe reevaluate, make some adjustment, maybe change up my priorities.
Yeah.
Maybe, it's a good, because I think it's something we can all face. And I would say there's probably some varying degrees of burnout.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, yeah.
And so when you're talking about just a kind of a surface level, like burnout, it's like, okay, I've got to stop and reevaluate and let's do things a little different. Let's reevaluate here. Yeah. And it can be a indicator of some things that need to be changed.
Yeah. So, I've faced burnout in my life.
Sure.
A couple years ago, I was burnt out. And you're saying, well, you're young. You shouldn't be burnt out. Well, I was working a full-time job, transitioning into being a pastor, young child on the way, at school, and this list goes on and on and on and on. And so I reached burnout. And there are some burnout is a bad feeling because, like you said, it's the alarm. It is the thing that lets you know, hey, you really need an intervention here. So you're kind of like in that place of, oh gosh, I need help. Like it's hard to admit that.
Yeah.
But I think recognizing that I was in burnout helped me to see triggers or to see other symptoms so that it keeps me from getting to burnout. Now, my burnout wasn't like others. Some people will reach burnout and they're like physically ill and they need a break.
Sure.
They need a sabbatical. I've heard of pastors that are, considerably young, 40s, having to take sabbaticals for weeks or months to recover, recoup, regenerate. And that's okay. Mine wasn't there. Mine wasn't to that point. But burnout, like she said, has different levels.
Yeah.
And we might get into that a little bit. But I think it's important for us to note that whether you're a parent, whether you're a spouse, whether you are an on-staff member that is paid by the church, or you are a volunteer.
Or you're all those things.
Or you're all of those things.
Yes.
you can reach burnout.
Sure.
And
You
so maybe, we're going to talk a little bit about symptoms, right? We're going to talk about what does it look like, because we want to recognize burnout.
Sure.
But then we also want to try to reverse burnout. And so the
Yes.
questions are, how do we do that? There was a statistic. I like statistics. If you've listened to the podcast for a little bit, you know that I love statistics. One statistic from 2013, now this is 8 years ago now, from the Schaefer Institute, reported that 1,700 pastors leave the ministry each month. Now, we don't have current data. It may not be that bad now, but I would venture to say that since the pandemic, there are some churches that will shut their doors, that will not reopen.
Yeah.
Prayerfully, that is not apostolic Pentecostal churches. And if it is, that's, I don't know anything about that situation, so I'm not going to speak to that.
Sure.
But I think people are burnt out
Yeah.
after a long year. And now
right.
it's a gas shortage on the East Coast,
Yeah.
and all these things. And they cited depression, burnout, and being overworked as the primary reason. Now, listen to this. According to the study, 90% of pastors reported working 55 to 70 hours a week, and 50% of them feel unable to meet the demands of the job.
Yeah.
So what it's saying is 90% of those pastors, 90% of pastors in that study say they work 55 to 70 hours a week. 50% of that study says, even at my 55 to 70 hours a week, I still feel like I can't get it all done.
Yeah.
So you get this sense of drowning.
Sure.
And I feel like, do you feel like that's what leads us to burnout? Is that sense of overwhelming responsibilities, or what do you think leads us to that place?
Yeah. So, so there's several different ways I guess we could approach this, but I was thinking as you were talking actually that I think that one of the challenges I know for myself, it's been a grand experiment, and it's probably ongoing experimentation on how can I push myself, get the most amount of stuff accomplished, performing at an optimum level without reaching a burnout state. So I it's kind of a grand experiment, okay?
Yeah, it is.
So figuring out how to structure all of the tasks in your life and the things that you want to accomplish,
Yeah.
Which for most of us, it's a lot of things. We have a lot of things that we want to accomplish and in life. And so figuring out how can I do these things and perform at an optimum level without getting burnout.
Okay.
And so I think there's somewhat of an experiment
Yeah.
to that. And that's why I said that burning out on like a entry level can be an indicator of needing to restructure,
Yeah.
needing to reprioritize.
Yeah.
Because you're a pastor, I'm a pastor's wife. We have a lot of things that we want to get done.
Mm-hmm.
And you may not have realized, but we've been kind of in an experimentation phase of how can we how can we accomplish as many things as possible,
Yeah.
yet structure our schedule in a way that we are
Yeah.
have been doing experiments on us. Like,
I
but
can feel it.
but like
Quit probing.
but still find time to rest,
Yeah.
still find things that replenish us.
Yeah.
Does that make sense what I'm
It
saying?
does, yeah, because I think you're always, some people, I think generationally it can be different. I am very interested in the study of generations, and the differences in generations. And I think that generationally it can be different. I think
Sure.
our generation, 100%, millennials, late Gen Z, middle millennial, maybe up to Gen X, is that way for sure. And it just so happens that's the majority of our audience.
Sure.
is that age gap, and I think, or age group, and I think that's true.
Yeah.
I feel the experimentation. For me, it was an accidental experiment of I figured out, oh no, I'm burnt out, and
Yeah.
now I've got to figure this thing out again. And I'll tell you, I'm trying to fix audio at the same time, so I apologize. But I will tell you that going into my burnout, there was a there was it's not really a significant experience. I'm just going to share what happened to me. I work at that time. I worked 40 hours a week plus working at the church and doing all the things we were doing. And so I had a negative interaction with someone at work to where there was a switch flipped in me, and it was tunnel vision. And I was just going in on this person, just letting them know why I did not like what just happened. And I had to go back and apologize to that person because that was crazy. But I had never had that happen in my life.
Yeah.
It was just, I don't know, rage. I don't know what it was. It was just tunnel vision. And I came home and I talked to my wife about it. And I was like, this happened today.
Yeah.
This is not normal for me.
Yes.
We've got to fix this.
Yeah.
And so it was that moment that I realized, and then began my experimentation of what can I do. And like she said, we have all these things we want to do. We want to plan another church. We want to do all these things.
Yeah.
But how can we do it and still stay sane and not burnt out?
Yeah.
And sometimes that requires experimentation. But you know what experimentation also leads to? Failure.
Sure.
Like,
oh yeah,
that's how you learn.
Yeah. So, and I would think that as you look back on that scenario, there were probably some indicators coming that you were heading toward burnout.
Right. That I didn't recognize
that you didn't
at the time.
like realize.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that's part of the experiment is realizing, okay, I've got all these things, but I'm on edge. I'm not sleeping well. I'm feeling anxious.
Yeah.
I'm feeling depressed, or I have all of these. I'm overeating. I'm undereating. Like I'm feeling all.
Sometimes you do that without burnout.
All these things
Comic relief
that are kind of like indicating, okay, I'm not. This structure is not working.
Yeah.
Look, you guys, I just want to say we're totally relatable in the fact that there's a whole bunch of things that we have to do that we don't want to do.
Don't want to do it.
That we don't want to do. So we know what it's like to have a lot of things to do that you don't want to do. And then trying to fit in all the things that you want to do along with a whole bunch of things that you don't want to do. And so we don't have we don't have that luxury of just being like, well, we can do what we want whenever we want. We totally understand.
Yes.
And that's why
every part of my life is dictated by someone else, except my bedtime.
Yes.
Yeah. Like I have to get up at the same time.
Even that's it. Like,
even that's like
if
sometimes.
one of our kids like wakes up or something, it could be,
or,
the wheels fall off the wagon. Yeah. Yes.
But, I will say, I think I'm turning everything on Do Not Disturb. I do think that, before my burnout experience, I was not as introspective.
Sure.
And so, looking back, I remember that. I remember the blow up. I don't remember before. But I will say that was the moment where I was like, oh, okay, we got to do something. Yeah. And so that led me down the path of introspection, of being able to look at myself, and this is how I'm feeling. This is, and that may change from day to day. You might feel good. You might feel bad. You might feel this. You might feel that, whatever the case is. But just realizing where you're at, where are you right now, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, where are you right now? And I think that taking that inventory at the beginning was difficult.
Sure.
But like all things, it turns into a good habit.
And I think I just talked about having to do a whole bunch of things that you don't want to do. But sometimes we're doing things that we don't want to do, that we don't even have to do.
Uh-oh.
And I think that can really lead to burnout. Because like I said, he's a pastor. I'm a pastor's wife. I've felt the pressure of feeling like I have to be at everything. I have to do everything. Yeah. And the truth is that's just not realistic.
Yeah. That's projected pressure.
I can't be at everything. I can't do everything, and I can't be good at everything.
Yeah.
And so I think.
But can you? Because you are.
Oh my goodness. If we're talking about like decor and like stuff like that, I'd rather just like rip my eyeballs out.
Oh boy. You don't like Pinterest?
Oh, but there are people that do enjoy doing those things. So
Yeah.
like, I know I just mentioned decor, and like, I do not enjoy
It doesn't replenish you.
decorating for functions. And like, if I had to, I could do it. But there's people that really, really enjoy that. Like, my mom is one of those people.
Yeah.
And so like, if we have something at
She should be an
church,
interior
I'm like,
designer.
Mom,
Please do this.
Mom and your team of people that
Yeah.
love doing that.
And they do a great job.
Yeah. And they do a great job. And that's what I'm talking about with
Yeah.
structuring. Sometimes we're doing things because we feel like we have to do them and no
Yeah.
one can do them as good as us. But, you know, there may be people that really enjoy doing it. And the more that they do it, the more, and they work with you, the more it may like fall in line
Yeah.
with kind of your idea. But letting other people do things that they're
Yeah.
good at can be so freeing
Yeah.
for you and for them.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that that's one thing that I had to learn early on is, sometimes you feel like you can do it better. And in the beginning stages, you may be able to do it better. Especially if it's like, like for instance, graphic design. Then I just know this from experience with different things that I've been involved with, is that in the beginnings, you probably can do it better, but that person has to learn. And so one day they'll be just as good or better than you.
Absolutely.
So it does take time, and it is a little bit painful at times to have to go through those transitionary periods, but you have to be able to do it. But then on the flip side of that, one thing I was thinking is, on the flip side of that, there are things like pastors, ministry leaders, you can get other people involved.
Yes.
And so that's amazing because it gets other people involved with what you're doing, and it takes some off of your plate. It does require that you give up some of that control and that you let people do.
Sure.
But then there are other people that cannot give up things.
Sure.
There was a time recently where I was like, what can I delegate? And I wrote down things. There was not one thing I was doing that I can delegate.
It's already pretty streamlined.
It is. So it's as streamlined as it can get.
Sure.
So now what?
Okay.
And so that's what we got to look at too, is we say, if you can delegate, if you're a ministry leader, let's say it's at work even. So we're talking about ministry, but all aspects of Christian life, because God is going to call people to be pastors, preachers, teachers, prophets, evangelists, but he's also going to call people to be entrepreneurs and businessmen and women.
That's right.
And people in the street. And
we love that.
And that is part of God's plan and God's kingdom, and it's part of God's blessing for his church. So we can delegate.
Yeah.
You can delegate in your job, in your school, wherever you are. Look at things you can delegate, whatever you're doing. But there are some people that can't. Maybe you look at it and you're like, I'm an evangelist. I don't have a team to delegate these things to. It's me and my wife and our kids. Or you're a pastor and you're pastoring a home missions work, and you're planted a church, and you can't delegate these things out. Now what?
Sure. Yeah. So I think that.
Or you're a mom, or a dad. So yeah.
Yeah.
What now? What? I'm done.
Okay. So. Yeah. So if you've like streamlined everything and there's nothing left for you to delegate out, and you're still like fighting this sense of burnout or just feeling overwhelmed, I really think that it starts in your soul.
Go ahead. Talk about the book.
I can, but
no, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, did you want to say something?
I did not.
Okay.
I was thinking about soul keeping. Oh, such a good book.
It is. Yeah. It starts in your soul, and I think it starts with your priorities in your spiritual life. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that there's a lot of counselors out there that could tell you a lot of self-help techniques. But I know for myself the power of having that time with God and my own personal spiritual life being where I need to be and having that time with God. And I think that's the starting point is you have to replenish your soul with prayer and time in God's word. And I'm not talking about just a little like, now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep.
Yeah.
I'm talking about true time with God and time in his word.
Yeah.
Because there is nothing that will replenish your spirit and your soul and your mind, like getting into the presence of God, like breaking through in the spirit, like reading God's word and letting it saturate your heart. And you might be like, that sounds really simplistic. And it is simplistic, but you would be surprised at the amount of people that do not do that. The amount of people, the amount of ministry leaders that are struggling, that are burnout, and you say, when was the last time you prayed? I mean, really prayed and spoke in tongues. And you would be astonished at the amount of people that answer, it's been a really long time.
So it made me think, and we're kind of coming at this backwards a little bit. And so right now we're talking about reversal or even
prevention.
Prevention, prophylaxis, like keeping from getting there. So we'll talk about recognition soon. But what you said was so good is, when we get in those moments of burnout and we're so drained, we look for things to refill us and replenish us. And if we're not careful, we'll find ourselves looking for things to replenish us that maybe were old habits we had before that aren't good. You will, as a man or a woman, you will be most tempted when you are most weak, when you are your weakest. Yeah. And I think part of that is that desire to feel that replenishment. And it's that emptiness that we feel in those moments where we really, really need a divine move of God's Spirit. We need to find ourselves filling up with the word, like you said, and find ourselves in prayer. Because if we're not careful, I'm sure we'll talk about drainers and gainers at some point, but as we're drained back down and we look for things like food or media or relationships or whatever the case is, old bad habits to fill us back up, we long for that thing to refill. And you're exactly right. It's that going back to the source, which is the Spirit of God, which is prayer.
And I think not waiting until you're weak.
Yeah.
Not waiting until you're, just on the edge. Mm-hmm. This is like every day. It's kind of like I said, mental health is like physical exercise. You need to practice it every day. The same thing applies here. Not waiting until you're just in this dreadful moment. Yeah. Where you're like, what am I going to do? But every day. Yeah. Becoming stronger. I was reading about this morning in Matthew where it talks about the stronger man that can plunder the house and overcome.
When the stronger has come.
That too.
That's so good.
But yes, because when we're strong, then we can war in the spirit and take dominion over those things. And like, how does this apply to burnout? Well, it does. Yeah. Because there's an element of burnout, spiritual burnout. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important that is on the front lines. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's prophylaxis. And that isn't as drastic as reversal. Like you were saying, we were talking about, we'll talk about how to come back from burnout, but coming back from burnout is more difficult than just maintaining. Like whenever you talk about prayer and Bible reading, it's that maintenance, that's so important. It's kind of like maintaining a car. If you don't maintain a car, it's going to break down. It's the same thing for the spiritual life. If you don't maintain, if you don't keep doing like what you said, prayer, Bible reading, maintaining that strong life.
Well, because that's the baseline. Yeah. Because when your spirit is under control of the Spirit, then the Holy Spirit, the Holy Ghost, then your emotions are not running away with you. Mm-hmm. Your temper is not running away with you. You're not ready to snap out at everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does
That's
that
so
make
true.
sense?
It does. It does. And I think, like you talked about baseline,
Yeah.
you know, when you start approaching burnout, you approach problems from a deficit.
Yeah.
You know, I think that Brother Urshan preached on the levels of life.
Such a good sermon.
It's a couple of parts. If you look at FPC Durham's website, just go do that. Do yourself
I've
a favor.
listened to it twice.
Yeah.
I think I've listened to it
I've listened to it
twice
once. I need to go back and listen to it again.
Yeah.
Um,
I need like a printout.
yeah.
I need a graphic for this.
I need an infographic of this.
Yes.
That would actually be a good idea. We need to get Spencer to do that.
Let's text it into the Biblos network and see if they respond.
But I think, you know, what happens is like if you're approaching burnout and you're drained,
Yeah.
you're coming at problems from a deficit.
Yeah.
But if you are full,
Yeah.
then that is your baseline.
Yeah.
And that's the
right.
thing that's important to understand.
right.
You know, before you go on a long trip, you fill up the tank of gas, right? You don't start on empty.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the thing here is what we need to do is when approaching life and approaching ministry and approaching, you know, marriage, or approaching parenting, don't do your best to not approach from a deficit.
Yeah.
Approach from the baseline, which is being full of the Spirit, being full of the Word of God, and being able to walk in the Spirit. And that's going to help you navigate those problems, navigate those issues, keep you from getting too burnout.
So here's another one. And this is for prevention. This is for maybe reversal. Is you need some alone time.
Oh boy.
Alone time is so good. Some people are so scared of being alone,
Being in silence.
Yeah. And I think sometimes because it can bring to surface like things we don't want to think about.
Mm-hmm.
But we need some alone time.
Yeah.
We need alone time with God, but we just need alone time just to be. And if you're married, you need alone time with your spouse.
Yeah.
Just to be with your spouse.
Yeah. We had a date last night. Shout out to my wonderful sister-in-law, Tizzy, Candace. She's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That alone time is important.
Yeah. And we haven't, just being honest, we haven't had a chance to take any like long trips or anything like that recently.
Mm-mm.
And so one of the things that's really helped us is we've like prioritized having date nights and evenings together and like, you know, finding babysitters wherever we can, you know, the same people that watch our kids all the time. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And that's really helped us.
Yeah.
It's really helped us, be on the same page and refresh and replenish, because you need time alone.
Yeah.
So we've said your spiritual life, your spiritual disciplines. We've said alone time. And here's another really good one is social connectivity.
Not social networking. There is difference. She's about to go into that.
Yeah. I'm talking about like real
Face
flesh.
to face.
Yeah. Real like flesh and blood friends. Like you guys, everybody needs friends.
Yep.
And I'm not talking about like fake friends or like friends that'll just tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah.
You need like real true blue friends that will tell you the truth, that will be honest with you, that are not friends with you just for like some kind of personal gain. Like we really all need friends that we can laugh, you can cry, you can tell each other the truth.
Support.
Yeah, absolutely. Like and research will tell you this. There's so many statistics out there that we need social connection. We need time with friends. We need social time with people for healing, to replenish our spirits, to give us like social feedback so we can adjust if we need to.
Yeah.
We need that social connection. And sometimes when we're overwhelmed and feeling burnt out, we have a tendency to want to hide out. And I'm not talking about like the restorative alone time that's productive. I'm talking about like just hiding out.
Negative thought pattern.
Hiding out from people. You're avoiding people. You don't want any feedback. You don't want anyone to speak into your life. You just want to hide out.
Yeah.
And that's not That's not productive. We need friends. We need to get out and do things. We need to be around people.
Yeah.
And it's becoming a little easier. We're kind of getting a little further along in this pandemic, and so it's becoming easier.
Yeah, social interaction is a big gainer for me. So there's an idea of drainers and gainers. There are things that are going to drain you of your energy, whether it be problem people. It's not just church members. I'm talking family members, people that just drain you.
Yeah.
And then there are gainers. There are people that when you spend time with them, they put energy back into you. And so, and it's not just people, it's places, it's things, it's, all kind of activities that are gainers. And so that's a gainer for me.
Yeah.
Going and hanging out with friends, real friends, not the ones that want to talk to you about their problems, which is fine if you need a friend like that every once in a while. But true friendship is someone that
there's an exchange.
Yes. You listen, they listen. You listen, they listen.
That's right.
And it's important. It's important somebody you can be real with. Somebody you can talk truthfully with. And I'm not talking about, dirty conversation. I'm talking a good friend.
Yeah.
Like not just somebody you can just talk to and just a connection with. And
you can laugh. The Bible talks about laughter. You need to laugh.
Yeah.
And, it might be productive for you if you haven't done this or you haven't thought about it. But think about activities that like replenish you.
Yeah.
Like
walks
or like, I know, I love talking about psychology, and I love talking about.
Yes, she does.
And I love talking about how it relates to the Bible. I love talking about the Bible and God's word, and that like makes me lit. I get so excited.
Neurons are firing.
I get so much energy, like I can hardly like calm down. I just get so excited talking about that and talking with people who are just really like well versed in the Bible, and it just gets me so excited, and finding things that replenish you and give you energy and make you feel, I guess maybe the term is lighthearted.
Yeah.
Make a list of those things.
Yeah.
Another one for me is like being outside. I love to be outside and take walks and view nature. My husband used to laugh at me when we first got married because we would be like on these road trips, and I would be like, oh, look at how beautiful. Oh, look at the animals. Oh, look at this. Yeah, and I still do it, but you don't make fun of me as much.
Look at that beautiful alligator.
Yes. Like
oh my God, what a gorgeous python.
Like we'd be in Florida, and I'd be like, I know there's going to be like,
I wonder how many gators are out there.
Yes. Like I'd be like looking, because it was just interesting to me.
Yeah.
And
but here's what's funny is she loves the outdoors the most for someone that does not want to be like camping in the outdoors and things like that. It's so awesome to see it.
Yes. Yes.
So we talked a little bit about kind of keeping from getting there. So I think burnout is a place that you visit really quick, and then you need to get out of as quickly as you possibly can before you have a meltdown and your family falls apart and you lose all hope.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some symptoms of burnout.
Yeah.
And then let's talk about reversal, because here's the thing is that when an intervention takes place, prevention is much easier than reversal. In my opinion, from what I've felt and what I've seen and experienced myself, it's easier to prevent burnout from happening than it is to come back from burnout. It requires quite a bit more work to come back from burnout, in my personal opinion. So let's talk about prevention, and then we'll escalate to reversal before we end the show. Does that sound okay? Or let's talk about symptoms rather.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so I think a big indicator, and I know we're talking to like a lot of pastors and ministers and evangelists and leaders. So if you're like waking up in the morning and you just like hate what you do, like you hate it, you may be in like a burnout period. because I love being in ministry, and I love working for the kingdom of God. And I think that a lot of people have come into ministry because they are passionate about doing the work of God. And so if you're like waking up and you're just like, oh, I hate this, I don't want to do this, or I dread this so much, you might need some time to replenish, because you may have just.
What if I told you that I had 9 reasons or 9 symptoms, and you just nailed number 1?
Oh, wow. Okay. This is a trick. Okay.
Your motivation is faded.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
That's good.
All right.
That's perfect.
Pass the test, y'all. 100%.
Let's see if you get the next 8.
Oh,
right.
no, I'm
just
scared.
kidding.
I didn't study.
What about we do this? What if I call them out and then you expound on them?
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay. Motivation is faded. You hit it.
Yep.
Perfect. Your main emotion is numbness. You
Yeah.
no longer feel the highs or the lows.
Yeah.
These come from Carrie Newhoff. Is a podcaster, was a pastor of a non-denominational church. But he did write an incredible book called Didn't See It Coming, and it's about burnout. Very, very good book. And so this comes from him. Your motivation is faded. Your main emotion is numbness.
Yeah. Yeah. So you just feel, I think the term has been used quite a bit, like compassion fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard so many problems. You've heard so many issues. And,
Police,
and
medical,
just,
all those people deal with
you
that.
just can't feel anymore because you haven't replenished your spirit, your body, your mind. So you just feel numb.
Yeah.
That's good.
3 people drain you. We talked about drainers and gainers. That's a good one.
People drain you.
Yeah.
So I feel like when we're functioning at optimum levels, and this is so much easier than me coming up with everything on my own. That's
Okay,
great.
good.
Okay, so when we're like functioning at optimum levels, and we have everything, structured well, and we're taking time like we need to replenish ourselves, then I feel like people can be very motivating, and people can be really energizing.
Yeah.
And so when you're getting to the point where you're around people and you're just like, oh.
Yeah.
People
that would normally, wouldn't you say it would be people that would normally make you.
Sure. Yeah.
There's a change there.
Yeah. And this can be at varying levels because, there are introverts and there are extroverts, and there are people that are in ministry that are more introverted.
Yeah.
But it's to the point where it's just like you feel like you want to hide out.
Yeah. Okay. So, isolation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Number 4. Now this was me. Little things make you disproportionately angry.
Yeah.
Rage monster. The smallest thing, we talked about triggers, the smallest thing would trigger me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's fairly common.
Very common.
Just build up. It builds up.
Yeah.
And then it's just like one thing.
You ever heard of the old saying that it's the straw that broke the camel's back?
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Like literally, it's that one piece of straw that broke the camel's back. It's that one small thing that shouldn't make you mad on a normal day, but just lights your Christmas tree on fire.
Yeah. And I just want to say here, it's kind of related to this, is sometimes what leads to burnout is we keep overcompensating for small things. And that leads us to burn out because we expend all of our energy on small things that don't matter or are not a priority or are not important. A lot of times is,
you feel like that's, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I mean, I kind of did, but I need to do better. So I'm sorry. But do you feel like that's an emotional expenditure too?
Yeah.
We expend emotional energy on things that don't matter.
Yeah.
And it's not just physical. We're not just going out here and mowing the yard when somebody else could be mowing the yard. We're actually putting mental and emotional thought, effort, energy into something that doesn't matter.
Yeah. So I know pastors and leaders, sometimes we can expend a lot of energy overcompensating. Yeah. Like if we maybe think someone got upset about something, but we're not sure, but they made a face and they look like they're very upset and we don't want to issue.
They had their arms folded the whole service.
Yeah. So we go overboard trying to overcompensate for that.
What was that quote you read the other night about that? Overcompensation for someone else.
Oh,
boundaries.
It was about boundaries, and just because someone responds or someone's angry doesn't mean that we have to respond.
Yeah. That means it actually kind of means you have no boundaries.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is so good.
And so, sometimes we can let the small things lead us to burnout, because I know it is a trap. I'm going to let you keep going on your list in just a second.
Okay.
It is a trap for pastors and leaders. And because sometimes we feel like I've seen people just spin their wheels over every little small thing that comes up. Like, oh, we got to do this because we don't want such and such to be mad, and we got to do this. And and you will wear yourself out so quick reacting about things that are not a top priority.
Which leads to number 5. You're becoming cynical.
Yeah.
Cynicism is a bad thing, and it is.
Yeah.
It's far more common than people realize when it comes to ministry. Cynicism toward people.
Yeah.
Cynicism toward position, ministry, job description, and it feeds into every aspect of our lives.
Yeah, and you know what? I have to say, I feel like a kind of maybe a symptom to that, or like a branch of that. And I was talking about this the other day with someone, is dismissiveness of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yes, I remember that.
And we're just kind of like, well, they just need to learn to get through it. We all have problems. And that,
that's tough.
Yeah. And it makes people feel so small.
Yeah.
When you are just like, dismiss what they go through, or dismiss how they're feeling.
Yeah.
Don't you feel like that's kind of related, kind of like to cynicism, like looking through this jaded lens at people?
Yeah.
And it even goes back to kind of like numbness, because you're just not feeling, you're just.
My thing is that, as a pastor, we talked about it. I can't remember where we talked about it. We talked about it real briefly, about how Jesus felt, how the people felt. Like when it said it was moved upon with compassion, the root of that means that he felt it deep within. And I think somebody brought it out. I think it was Brother Joel Urshan brought it out, that he was experiencing what they felt.
Yeah.
I think cynicism, people want to have cynicism. People will have cynicism and they'll say, well, I'm just being guarded, or I'm just being realistic because I've been hurt before.
Yeah. And
what they're doing is they're actually allowing the cynicism to come up and be a wall between them and effective ministry.
Yeah.
And an effective way of living. Because God did not call us to cynicism. He called us to be relational, to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. And I think that cynicism is a wall that's built that keeps us from doing that.
Yeah.
And the world is really easy to be cynical about right now. You got people hoarding gas. You got people getting in fights over gas. There are people, I read last night, people fighting over Pokemon cards. Yeah. And that's just the minor things when there's majors all throughout the world with Palestinian-Israel conflict. And there's plenty of things to be cynical about. But with people that have such a hope, can we afford to be cynical? And I think that's something especially for ministers, but for everybody that calls themselves a Christian, that we cannot allow ourselves to be, because it makes us ineffective in the world that we're supposed to be effective in.
And Jesus got away from the crowd. He spent time alone praying. He spent time alone. And then when he was with people, he was moved with compassion for them.
Yeah.
And it's important that we don't look at people through bitter lens.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
We're not looking at people through bitter lens. We're not dismissing people in their time of need. I mean, that just breaks my heart to think of, someone being in need, and I would just kind of, push them away.
Yeah.
And be dismissive of what they're feeling, just because I, don't think it's important to me. And, having that compassion like Jesus had for others. Yeah. But like I just said, he took time away. He took time to be alone.
Yeah, that's it. It was
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah.
Then it was people. It was time with God. You cannot pour into other people if you are not poured into. You cannot take other people to places you've never been. Like, it's just, you know
Because
what I mean?
Jesus was exempling on earth for us what to do and how to act and how to be. He was that example for us.
And I think there's a difference between, the Bible talks about don't cast your pearls before the swine.
Sure.
And it means people that reject. There's a difference between struggling people and people that are abusing your friendship and abusing
Sure. Yeah. You can have boundaries. Yeah.
And have boundaries, but don't let the people that reject you or the people that despitefully use you, don't let them cause you to become cynical. Don't let
That's right.
bad things in the church cause you to become cynical.
That's right.
Because at the end of the day, we're all dealing with the same condition. That is the human condition. And so we overcome it. We operate at different levels of life, and we operate in the spiritual, and that's where we operate.
And that's why a lot of times people do become dismissive or bitter or because they're closing themselves off because of bad things that have happened in the past. And so they're just like, they'll use terms like, oh, they're just so emotional, or, oh, they're just so dramatic.
Yeah, my favorite is I've dealt with people like that before.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
And it's, and it's not, if you're there, you can come back from that. You can experience healing from that. Yeah.
Number 6, we don't have to talk about this super long, but your productivity is dropping.
Yeah.
Number 7, this is a big one. You're self-medicating. So just to kind of get the ball rolling, remember we talked about now self-medicating is not like going out and getting, drugs on the street. You're taking things that the thing that should be filling you is God's spirit, but you're allowing other things to do it. Media, entertainment, food, old habits.
Sure.
And so we have to be careful there, I think, and make sure that we're going back to the source, which is Jesus.
I know you want to move fast, but number 6, when you say your productivity is dropping.
Yeah, go back.
Sometimes we're always busy, but never getting anything done.
It's true.
That's really going to lead to burnout. It's better to do few things that are accomplishing something and productive than doing all kinds of things, like overcompensating for small things and always feeling like you're spinning your wheels, but never getting anything done.
That's good.
Yeah.
Number 8, you don't laugh anymore.
Oh, I love to laugh.
I've been in a good mood lately. Laughing up a storm.
Yes. Find something that will make you laugh.
Watch this podcast. I'll make you laugh every once in a while.
Laughing is so good for you.
It is good for the soul.
Yeah.
Number 9, sleep and time off no longer refuel you.
Oh.
That's a bad one.
Yeah.
And it's true. I think, I think that's where we find ourselves sometimes. I think that's true burnout. And that is a true need of recovery.
I would say there, you really need to reach out to someone that has a lot of wisdom and has experience
you can trust,
and get some help.
Yeah.
Get someone that will speak into your life and, this is where I'm at. I need some help, and get someone to help guide you through that. Get a man of God, a woman of God to give you some direction and help you get through that.
And I will encourage you, ask the right person.
Yes.
Just because they're friends with you or you've been around them your whole life or a little bit of time, whatever the case may be, there are some people that are going to understand what you're going through. And then there's other people that are going to be, like we just said, that are going to be very dismissive of what you're going through. Well, you just need to toughen up. You just need to, get some grit in you. That's true sometimes, but we need to really focus on mental and emotional health.
Well, telling someone to toughen up doesn't make them toughen up.
It doesn't. It actually makes them feel like less of a man or less of a person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but if you reach out to someone that has had experience, they can share with you their experience and what they've done that has helped them.
Yeah.
And it can help you realize, okay, I do have to walk through this time.
Yeah.
This is difficult, but here's someone that went through the same experience or similar experience as me. They made it through. They shared with me some things that they did, that helped them. And, that gives me some good ideas of some things that I can do that's going to help me get through.
Yep.
And then through shared experience and realizing you're not alone, then you can build that mental resilience and spiritual resilience to be able to get through that situation. Telling someone they need to toughen up
doesn't work.
It's
usually.
It's just not.
And sometimes that is the case. Sometimes you just need to man up, like with certain situations. But by and large, that is not always the right answer. And you better be very close to that person before you say that.
Sure.
But, I think that, I think when you were talking about the mentorship aspect too, it's important that you get someone that is older than you, someone that's been around the block a little bit.
Sure.
It's hard to navigate these things in a peer-to-peer basis.
Sure.
You need a mentor, someone that is a mentor, whether it be an elder in the church or, another pastor that's been pastoring longer than you. Cause that's very helpful. There's, and the other thing, there's wisdom in the multitude of counsel. Ask multiple people and see what other people did, because it's not one size fits all. Sometimes it's, well, this worked. Well, this didn't work. And I tried what they said, but this other person, I tried what they said and it did. Or it's, oh, I've listened to all four of these people and all of these things make sense. So I'm going to try to navigate it with all four aspects. So wisdom in a multitude of counsel. So we talked about recognition, 9 things to recognize. I think there was a good escalation there of probably stages of that last point being that no matter how much I sleep, no matter how much I get time alone, I'm not good. And so that's like the most extreme. Now coming back, we got just a few more minutes. Coming back, one of the things that was listed for coming back is to seek social connection outside of the church, which we talked about, meaning outside of your church, if you are a pastor, seek.
You need to go somewhere and be filled. Mm-hmm. And you need to go somewhere.
We did that not too long ago.
Listen,
beginning of the year.
I'm a pastor's kid. I'm a pastor's wife. I understand. You need to go somewhere and be filled, and you don't need to go to church thinking, oh, they do this ministry. Oh, we should do this ministry too. Yeah. You
just need to go and be fed.
You need to just go and just soak it in.
Yeah.
Soak it in. I remember during the pandemic, we couldn't have in-person services, and we
had like a little deal in our church. We had to shut down for 2 weeks.
Yeah. We went to a church that was having church, and oh my goodness.
It was so nice.
There is something about being in the presence of God with other believers. I mean, I was just like sobbing. Like I was just so happy to be in church with believers.
Yeah, I was just smiling. I was like,
yes,
just
like you need to go. You need to go and just be replenished, be refilled. Let the word of God sink into your heart. Don't go working and trying to, think about all the things you need to do. Go and be filled somewhere.
Take a vacation is another one that's on this list. Take a vacation. If you're an evangelist or a pastor, don't set up the vacation that you're going to preach while you're on vacation. Take a vacation. Yeah. With your family.
Yes.
Take it with your spouse. Leave your kids if you want to, but take a vacation. Take time out for self-care. Honor the Sabbath and keep it holy. I think one of the things that we do a really good job of in American culture is working. One of the things we do really bad in American culture is taking a break. Yeah. And I think there should be a day a week. Maybe that it might not be that you don't go into the office, but when you go into the office, it's a lighter day that you spend time in the Word, that you spend time praying. And if maybe you can't fit that in, like we talked about, we've streamlined so much and I work, do all these things and I can't do it, find time, whether it be an hour a day, whether it be 2 hours a day, or there's a block of time on a Thursday night I have nothing doing.
Yeah.
Find time.
Yeah, and it may be too that you can adjust your schedule a little bit and
Yep.
maybe start getting up, 30 minutes earlier.
Yeah.
And just trying
And
to,
it's okay if you're not a morning person.
but you can slowly change that.
Yep.
And like, just get up a little bit earlier,
Yeah.
start at 15 minutes and then work,
Work
kind
up.
of gradually work at making that time.
Exercise, eat well, pray daily, journaling,
Oh, yes. So good. All of those things.
say no.
Yeah. It's okay to say no
Sometimes your no is your best yes.
Yeah, that's true.
I can't remember where I heard that, but yeah. Let's see. Link in with other pastors.
Yeah.
This last three. Recognize the warning signs of burnout.
Yeah.
Once you've reached it, become introspective and see.
Yeah. Like be introspective all the time.
Yeah.
To have time that you're examining your inner life and recognize those things.
Yeah.
And if you're married, you ask your spouse. Your spouse will
Gladly tell you.
tell you the truth. Hey, am I edgy? Am I, do I seem a little anxious or, how am I doing?
Other than Jesus, there should be no one that loves you more than your spouse. And so should be able to tell you the truth.
Yeah. If you're not married, find a trusted friend.
Trusted friend.
Yeah.
Yep. Seek counseling. That supportive, I will tell you that supportive care and it, the recidivism rate of counseling, people talk about that, but sometimes you need it for a season to where you can, counseling helps you become introspective.
Yeah. Godly.
Godly counseling. Rest and recharge. Rick Warren had the 3 R's. Release, which is talking to God about your worries. Refocus on God. And then finally resume. Yeah. Release, refocus, resume. I think that's good.
Yeah.
I think releasing all those tensions, all that pent up issue, giving it to God.
Yeah.
And then refocusing back on Him, which is the focus of all things that we do. And then resume. That's the key, is we replenish ourselves so that we can go replenish others. We get it from the source, but there will be people that will get it from us.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. You can come back from burnout. If you have issues with burnout, just there's a good counselor I know. Her name is Ashley Grizzle. You can text the word THINK to 910-600-0498.
And I just want to say, once you text the word think to that number, you can go ahead and text your question.
Yeah.
Or text your comment. We really want to hear from you guys. We want to hear your questions. We want to hear what you want to hear about. And our next episode, we'll start answering some of these questions as they come in.
That's our goal, is the next episode. Yeah. And what we'll try to do, because we can text back individually, is we'll try to text you and let you know, hey, your question's going to be answered on such and such. And so that way you'll know. Then also, don't forget, we had 2 good episodes just air. This is the first time we've done alone, just the 2 of us again, just the 2 of us, in a little bit.
Yeah.
And so the last one is really good. The comparison trap. Comparison can lead you to burnout because you can compare yourself to other ministers, other families, what they're doing. So check that one out. Then the other one with
the cost of moral
relativism.
Yep. Be sure to check out our past episodes.
Very good. And the Biblos channel. Anything else you'd like to add before we go?
No, thank you all so much for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you guys. I think, honey, you did an incredible job.
Thanks. Incredible. You too.
Thank you all for watching. We're so glad that you took the time to do that. Make sure you check out the Biblos Network. And as always, you've been watching the Biblos Network. God bless, guys.
Thanks so much.